We've got a title-winning North End captain on PNE Pod today. Ian Bryson, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Well, maybe not so much after last night's performance from Scotland, but yeah, it's great to be here. I've spoke to a few lads that have done this before, so interested to see where we go.
Who have you spoke to? What have they said?
I spoke to Ryan Kidd and Andy Fensom. I did speak to Alan Kelly before he done it, so I know quite a few lads that have done it. So it's something different. So looking forward to it.
They spoke very fondly actually about that time that they spent at Preston, particularly that title win, which we'll come on to probably in a bit more detail later. But when I say title-winning captain, Preston North End, does that still bring a smile to your face?
Oh, certainly. And if you look back in history, there's not that many captains who win stuff, and to have the honour to captain Preston in the first place was fantastic. The sort of year we had to win that championship was really good. The team we had was magnificent. To me, football's all about team spirit, and you can achieve a lot with team spirit if you've got the right lads in there. And we had it that season, and I had the honour of picking that championship trophy up in the last game against Exeter, and that's all my family were down for Scotland. So it was just a fantastic moment in my career, and one of the highlights really. So very emotional day.
Do you have a picture or anything like that at home with it?
I have one or two pictures up in the wall, yeah. So I have pictures of the team, and I have a picture of myself with the trophy, like so. And when I go to Deepdale as well, there's one up in one of the corridors along where the boxes are. So it's every time I walk past it, it just gives a little bit of a smile to me.
A younger Ian Bryson.
Certainly a little bit younger. I'm not changed that much, I believe. Quite a few years ago. So
let's go all the way back to the start. And actually, there's something I wanted to get out of the way before we even started. I've got it here that you were born as James Ian Cook Bryson. So how come you go by Ian and not James?
It's a long story, this one. No, it was my mum and dad. My dad was James Cook Bryson, and we were brought up in a farming background, and he was James the V. On his side, I'm James the VI. My son's now Jamie Ian, so I changed traditions slightly. But unfortunately, if they'd called me Ian James, it would have made things a lot more better, because going to school, every time you're asked for what's your first name, it's James, but I'm actually called Ian. So I had to explain that, and I'm still doing it at 61 years old. So I wish they'd changed it slightly. But that's just through tradition in my family. So they say I'm James the VI. So people don't believe it. Nothing to do with royalty or anything.
Before we talk about football and playing and that side of it, who did you support growing up?
Nobody really. I was a kind of Hibernian fan, believe it or not. Only because my favourite player in them days was a left winger. I was a left winger growing up, although I was a right-footed player. And his name was Arthur Duncan, and he played in the kind of early 70s. He was very quick, and he was my kind of idol, so I kind of followed Hibernian. But not I'd ever had a chance, been brought up in the farming background with very little chance. I did see George Best at Kilmarnock. Hibs played Kilmarnock, and when he was there, so that was a highlight of my growing up days, actually being able to see George Best, because although he'd passed his best then, he was still a phenomenal player, and you don't get the chance to see many icons at a small place like Kilmarnock, so it was phenomenal.
You said just a second ago that you grew up on a dairy farm, and actually Killy was your first club. Before we get on to how you got there, what was it like growing up on a farm? I guess it's interesting because you don't get many farmers that become footballers.
No, it's certainly a bit surreal, really. And that was, when I grew up, all I ever did was play football, and I was encouraged by my father. My father was a good footballer, but he lost his dad when he was about 3 or 4 years old, and in them times he was unable to kind of follow his career. He potentially could have made a footballer, but he had to support his mum and the business and the farming. So he couldn't do that. So he always pushed me to try and achieve what I wanted to achieve. And fortunately, I did achieve it eventually. But I grew up actually at Ayr United Boys Club, which is a big rivalry. Ayr United and Kilmarnock it's a local derby. It's similar to Preston and Blackpool. Sorry. So it's quite a rivalry. And then at 18, I was released by United, and my playing strike partner was Alan McInally in them days. So he he was taken on, and then he went to Celtic and Villa, and the rest of it's history for him. I was let go, went to a junior side, which is kind of a Bamber Bridge type style team called Hurlford. And 3 months later, I got a trial for Kilmarnock. I had an unbelievable trial. Played on the Wednesday, signed on the Thursday, and that was in October, probably 81, 82, around about that time. And then I made my debut against Danny McGrain, who was the Celtic fullback. It was a friendly match. It was to do with Frost. I think there'd been a lot of games called off and various things, so Celtic wanted a game. So it was a friendly game against them, but he was the current Scottish captain, playing right back. So for me to make my debut for Kilmarnock against him was unreal. And then that was in the October, November time, and then I made my debut for Kilmarnock against Hamilton in the January and scored on my debut. I scored a penalty on my debut. So remember, it's a long while ago, but
I want to go back to this farm story because you're living on the farm, you're working on the farm, but define working on the farm. What are you doing at? And what sort of age are you? Getting up at 4 o'clock? What time are you getting up?
No, I was milking cows when I was 10 years old. So my mum and dad, they didn't have a lot of money, but it was a dairy farm with probably 40, 50 cows in them days, 130 acre farm. So you had to muck in. And even when I turned professional with Kilmarnock, I was still Kilmarnock were part time in them days. So I was at that stage. I had 2 other brothers, so we'd taken move to other farms because our farm couldn't support us all. So
physically, that must have been hard work.
Oh yeah. So basically, my football career at the beginning was we'd train twice a week with Kilmarnock, and that would be after 6 o'clock in the evening. So I was up most days at 5 o'clock milking 120, 130 cows. Had a full day's work, finished at 6 o'clock, go to training twice a week, and then I had a Saturday off because that's the majority of the game. So I'd play on a Saturday, but I still had to work on a Sunday morning. And I did that till I was 25.
So that sounds crazy now, thinking you would be doing it part-time football.
It just would never happen nowadays. And that we were professional, and Kilmarnock were a bit of a yo-yo team in them days. One minute we'd be in the Championship, next minute we're in the Premier League. So we didn't have a great team, but it was upbringing was brilliant. I played semi-pro for Scotland as well. That was a kind of highlight. I was selected for there was a 4 Nations tournament in them days. So I was selected for that. That was the only time I ever kind of represented my country, which was a big regret, really. I was mentioned in dispatches a couple of times, but the pinnacle of everybody's career is representing your national team. So
that Kilmarnock team in the 80s, 2 relegations, 1 promotion, like you say, a bit of a yo-yo from the top level to the second level. What were some of the big games that you played in for Kilmarnock? Did you play Rangers, Celtic?
Yeah, Celtic, Rangers. For a couple of minutes. For some reason, the daft ones when we played Rangers it was a cup game, and we lost 6-0 at Rangers and 6-0 at Kilmarnock. But another idol of mine was Davy Cooper, another phenomenal player. He's sadly no longer with us, but he was unbelievable. He was unplayable that day. So for some reason that sticks out. But again, going to all the big teams, we went to Aberdeen. I fractured my cheekbone at Aberdeen. But
was that Ferguson's Aberdeen?
Aberdeen, yeah, with Ferguson, yeah. So and Gordon Strachan was growing up there. So all the because they were a hell of a team in them days. Like so, and obviously the rest history of what happened with Alex Ferguson. So, but that was the days. But it was again all part time. So we worked hard, but it's just I didn't know any different. I've always been used to hard work, so it was just the way it was. I always hoped to get a move away. I was mentioned again a couple of times to possibly go to Dundee United or various things, so but it just never happened until I got my break to go to Sheffield United.
Your time at Deepdale was up and down, I suppose you could say, in terms of success, but then also moments of disappointment. Let's come on to Wembley, because you arguably might have scored one of the best goals that's ever been scored at the old Wembley. Elation for a minute, and then they go up the other end and score. Wickham end up winning the game. What are your memories of that goal and that day?
The goal, it was just, if I told you I've got 100% record for overhead kicks. I only ever tried it once my whole career. Why it happened, I have no idea. It was just instinct, I presume. I mean, we practice it in training and various things, but very rarely you get the opportunity to do it, especially when it's kind of straight over the top of your head. So it was obviously instinct took over. I mean, I've watched the game back now and I had a shocking game, really, apart from the game. Again, family all travelled down from Scotland to see me. I was achieving a lifetime ambition to play at Wembley, so the day was fantastic for me, but at the end of the game I was disappointed we'd lost, but Wycombe deserved to win on the day, so I always hold my hand up to the opposition. If they were better than you on the day, and they deserved to win. So yes, it was heart-wrenching for us as a team, but if you're realistic, we're 2-1 up at half-time. At the second half, they can overrun us. Simon Garner was an extremely experienced centre-forward. John Beck had made a strange decision before the match. I'm not saying that cost us the game, but it shocked the team. At 1:15 when they named the team, he put young Jamie Squires in, brought him in from nowhere, and I mean, allegedly Gary Peters didn't even know he was going to do that. So we'd worked all week and the previous week on set pieces and various things, and Stuart Hicks, who'd scored in the Torquay game, was playing, and then he took him out the side. So it was a bit of a strange beginning to the whole build up to the game, really. So,
but what was half time like? Because you're winning 2-1, you've scored an absolute worldie. So there must have been a real buzz inside that dressing room, and for the second half, for it all to fall apart.
Yeah, who knows? It was just one of these things. As I say, I don't know whether we froze in the day in the second half. I'm not to be honest, it's quite a distant memory now. So how the second half went and when they scored the goals, I'm not quite sure, to be honest. So it was just disappointing, really. So as I say, yes, I scored the goal, but I was disappointed in my own performance, really. So
I just want to finish off with that season, because you did play in the Torquay game. It was a very famous game, obviously 2-0 down from the first leg of the playoffs. To win that second leg 4-1, it's a very famous victory for Preston. The last game on the plastic pitch. Did you get any kind of memento, a little piece of the plastic pitch yourself? Is there one in your garden at the moment?
No, nothing from the pitch. As I say, that's probably the only game I've ever been emotional, apart from the last game I ever played for Rochdale, which was the end of my career. No, for some reason, at the end of the game, and whether it was the circumstances, we were 2-0 down, we managed to get back to 3-1 up, and then it went into, because away goals had stopped counting, so we went into extra time, and then we scored the fourth to win the match, and the whole place just erupted, and the emotions. It's the last game, getting to achieving my lifetime ambition, or one of them, and to get to Wembley. So it just overwhelmed me at the end of the game, and the fans rushing on the pitch and us celebrating. It was just a surreal moment, really. So cause in your career you don't get too many moments that you can really celebrate. So we'd achieved something. Unfortunately, we didn't kind of pull the final bit off to win it, really. So to get up. So, but as I say, Preston's record since then wasn't great. Although the last time I went as a fan for the first time, when they beat Swindon. That was a very special day.
Neil Mellor scored! Preston take the lead! And that's exactly what it means to Neil Mellor to score in the West Lancashire derby.